right, it's a Premier Fantasy Podcast. I'm Tito, Jeff Thidoff joining you. We're going to talk quarterbacks today. I'm with Chase Smith from the Chase Smith Podcast and about 40 other podcasts, I think. Chase, you certainly spend your time doing podcasts quite a bit. How you doing today?
Doing great, man. Yeah, actually just stepping down from a weekly Orange is Orange or Browns podcast hosting duties. Right. We got Holly Wetzel is going to come in, and her and Jeremy are going to take the podcast to new heights. But yes, I'm glad to be here talking fantasy football. Quarterbacks, Tito, quarterbacks.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network pre-3. We've got a lot of great podcasts on the network. I want to talk quarterbacks today for fantasy football purposes. We'll talk standard leagues. There's obviously various leagues you can join that some include 6-point passing touchdowns. Some start 2 quarterbacks. We're talking just standard leagues here now with the 4-point passing touchdowns and 1 quarterback leagues. And I think the number one guy for everybody in the world probably right now, Chase, has got to be Patrick Mahomes out in Kansas City with the offense they've got, all the weapons they've got. Mahomes, a beast in his $500 million contract and a great coaching staff. Mahomes and Allen pretty much go 1 and 2. Josh Allen from Buffalo off the board. Is that how you've got him ranked as well?
Yeah, I do have Mahomes 1, Allen 2. I did have a little hesitation with Mahomes at 1, Tito. The Super Bowl kind of was a little scary. The fact that he wasn't able to produce with. Now, I think Tampa Bay had some of the best pressure I've seen, in the playoffs. They're able to get to the quarterback. But I didn't like what I saw their line was decimated, and I think a cause for concern that there's a lot of room for other quarterbacks to make up some ground here if his line's going to be in shambles.
Well, Bruce Arians at Tampa Bay did a great job scheming for that. And that coupled with the fact that Kansas City, like you said, they had some offensive line issues there injury-wise. And having a full off season, though, with Andy Reid and with the geniuses there, Eric Bieniemy and all that there, I think that they will be fine going forward. I think it was a tough lesson for them to learn about the way a team could attack them. But I believe in Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, that whole Kansas City offense. I consider that to be an aberration and something that I don't think you'll see another team be able to do that if Kansas City could stay healthy.
Right. It's not a matter of weapons or tools. They have incredible, some of the best skill players. It's not a matter of talent. Mahomes can make any throw, every throw, any angle, any area of the field. It's just a matter of, will he have time? And I'm not to toot the Browns on horn, but Cleveland comes to town week 1, and you want to talk about a team that can get after the quarterback and can at least, it's a completely different defensive line than when we played them in the playoffs. And so I do think he has to go 1 because of his ceiling and his consistency, but I don't think it's as sure as it was last year, Tito.
And to say he's number 1 doesn't mean he'll be the number 1 quarterback every week, because yes, he could very well have a very pedestrian game against Cleveland. Absolutely could. But over the course of the season, I believe Mahomes is the best quarterback to have. Josh Allen, he signed a huge contract just now also, and he's playing with a lot of confidence. Buffalo is a scary team. They've had the consistency that like Baker Mayfield missed out on with all the different coaching changes in Cleveland. Allen's had that consistency in Buffalo, which has really benefited him. And that makes him, I think, the second best quarterback there.
I think the thing that makes Mahomes stand out compared to other quarterbacks is there is maybe one other quarterback that can even threaten a 7 touchdown day.
Right.
Like if I say, hey, there's going to be a quarterback in the league who throws 7 touchdowns one game this season, everyone's going to say, oh, that's Patty Mahomes. And he probably could do it. I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. I think his ceiling is just higher than anyone else's, not only because of his talent, but the scheme. Like they throw and they don't stop throwing. And I think Lamar Jackson can, if someone said there's gonna be a quarterback that scores 60 points in a week,
right?
I would not be surprised if Lamar Jackson is one of those quarterbacks. I'm not high on Lamar Jackson. We're going to talk about that here in a few moments, but their ability to just score anytime from any area of the place on the field, that's what makes Patty Mahomes number 1. And that's, he can win you a week, and there aren't many other quarterbacks who can win you a game. And Patty Mahomes is, he's that guy. He is that guy.
We talked about this a little bit also on our previous podcast, but the 2 other quarterbacks I think that could have the 7 touchdown pass games are Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford. And we both like those guys quite a bit too. Prescott was on a great trend last year before he got hurt. Stafford's in a better situation this year.
Yeah, I I think Dak could. I don't see I know you like the Dallas receivers. I just think we've seen Mahomes do it before.
Yeah.
And you have to talk about consistency. I mean, I think Dak's gonna have a great year. I think Stafford could have a great year. I think I'm really high on a lot of the high end quarterbacks, but I think as far as number one, you look at no other quarterback has the ceilings that Mahomes has.
Right.
And I don't know if any other quarterback in history, I mean, I know it's very hyperbolic, but as far as fantasy quarterbacks go, I mean, he's made it from a lab.
When you get a guy like Vic who can run it, ran touchdowns in quite a bit too, that's somebody who on a point basis could challenge that just because he would add in the double-digit rushing touchdowns potentially.
Yeah.
But I think with Prescott, like definitely Mahomes, Allen are 1 and 2 for me, but I think you can get great value on Prescott and Matthew Stafford if you wait on the quarterback, which is something I usually do. You can get, if Stafford's your quarterback and you can get him, after everyone else is taking the quarterback, if you can get him like as the 9th, 10th, 11th best quarterback taking your draft, 12th quarterback, that's a steal, I think. I've got him ranked number 6. If you get him as a 10th, 11th, or 12th quarterback taken in your league, I think you're going to get a gem.
Yeah, we're on record. We're pretty high on Dak and Matthew Stafford. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, I think you can't go wrong there either.
Right.
He 5-6 touchdown games, which I think aren't going to be an aberration. But he's out the FU mode. Rodgers is not messing around. He wants to prove that he's still elite. He wants to prove to Green Bay that he's the guy. And whether it's the last dance, a swan song or whatever, he is out to prove something. And that should terrify every single person in the NFC North. It's just no prisoners. And I pity the fool who, is undervaluing Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to have a great year.
And the way you look at last year anymore with quarterbacks of the passing game and the way that the quarterbacks are protected now and the way the schemes are run with the quick passes, quarterbacks have become weatherproof now. There once was a time when you had to worry about a quarterback playing in the snow, like in December in Green Bay or in Foxborough or someplace like that. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Rodgers can put up a 400-yard game in a snowstorm and 4 touchdowns in a snowstorm. He can do it. It used to be a concern many, many years ago, but anymore, the weather doesn't really, unless it's just an extremely windy, crazy kind of foggy day, that's where to get it. But you're snowproof now.
Yep. I think really after Mahomes, Allen and Rodgers is that top tier. They kind of separate themselves from Russell Wilson's, from the Dak Prescott's, from the how high you ever have Matthew Stafford, from the Herberts, from the Burrows, from the Jacksons. I really think from the Kyler Murrays, I think it's that 3 tier, and that's all scheme, and that's all like they are the focal point of that offense. And I think not only with their talent, their weapons, receivers, like you have to give them an edge. I think Dallas is going to feed Zeke. I think Dak is going to throw, but I think Aaron Jones in Green Bay, could rival Zeke for touches, but I don't see anyone in Kansas City, anyone in Buffalo really, getting 25 touches a game. I can see Zeke and Aaron Jones some games getting there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think that after the top 2, I think Prescott, Wilson, Rodgers is how I have them. You can have them in any order there. I think that you can make a case for Rodgers being 3rd. You make a case for Wilson being 3rd. You also, either way in there. I think that those guys are like in Stafford really are my next tier. Stafford probably being the biggest risk just because, he's in a new system. Although I believe in it and everything, he's still an older quarterback in a new system coming off an injury.
Hey, I have Kyler Murray in one of my keeper leagues. What should I be concerned about if I have Kyler Murray as my quarterback?
Well, like I told you before about the if and then, if you believe in Cliff Kingsbury, then you should, think the world of Kyler Murray and all that. I get that. My concern is just that he's still on the small side. He's grown 2 inches in the offseason and gained 40 pounds. He's got weapons there for sure, but I worry if he can now we're on a 17-game season, if he can endure all of that again is my biggest concern. I want to see a little more consistency in the passing game also. He certainly can beat you with his legs, which is a big thing nowadays in the NFL.
Kyler Murray had 26 passing touchdowns and 11 is that 11 rushing touchdowns? Yeah. Do you see him throwing more touchdowns than 26 this year?
I think it'll be close. I think that the fact he had a full off season with DeAndre Hopkins without all the COVID thing. Hopkins is a beast too, by the way. But the fact that he had a full off season there, having AJ Green, although AJ Green is obviously not the same receiver he was 5, 6, 7 years ago, but he's still somebody who's got reliable hands. He's not going to have the same, long passes, going to catch things like that. But he's somebody, though, I think that Kyler Murray can trust. We haven't heard from Larry Fitzgerald yet if he's going to retire or not. We're not sure on that. But that's my only concern with Murray is his durability and just improving on consistency with his pass game. 26 touchdowns. I could see him throwing a little more than 17-game season now, so everyone's numbers are going to jump up. So 28, 29 touchdowns, not out of the realm of possibility. I don't see double-digit rushing touchdowns for him, though.
All right, we're going to take a break here. We'll be right back. We're going to talk Justin Herbert and continue to talk about the quarterbacks you need to look at and avoid for fantasy football.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
Justin Herbert, where you have him at?
Well, Herbert, I've got him right below Murray. I've got Murray 8th, and I've got Herbert 9th. And Herbert had obviously a great rookie season last year, proved to be the best rookie quarterback in the class. And but he's got a new head coach there. And I hope that Keenan Allen can stay healthy. Keenan Allen's health is a big part of this. He seems to get hurt, dinged up every year. But I like Herbert quite a bit. I've seen some projections where they think he's going to run for a lot of touchdowns more than he did last year. I don't necessarily see that. If his connection with Jared Cook works out okay, if they can connect on the field, like I say, Herbert's a top 10 quarterback for me. I've got him right below Murray and right above Brady. As far as the rookie quarterbacks go, I think Trevor Lawrence is the best option there. But Justin Fields is probably second for me. I don't really trust anybody else after that as far as the rookies go. And I know Fields isn't the starter yet, but I don't care about, Zach Wilson. I don't care about Trey Lance.
Well, if a quarterback is looking for attempts and yards and scores, and you look at teams who are going to be behind,
right.
Teams are going to have to throw. What's wrong with taking a flyer on Zach Wilson? I mean, yeah, he's not like, I feel like he has, like, it's a win-win if you throw a late round flyer on him and he is this year's Herbert. That's a great, I mean, they're going to throw a lot in New York. They're going to be behind. It's not a good football team, and he's going to be asked to do a lot.
I need to see, I mean, I didn't see Herbert having the big year he had last year because obviously Tyrod Taylor was supposed to be the starter in week 1.
Yeah.
He gets early on, he gets the injection into his ribs and ends up having to miss time, and that's how Herbert took over. So I didn't see that coming from him. With Zach Wilson, my issue is the fact that I need to see more of him there. And, you never know with rookies like last year with Tua. Tua looked great at times, but looked very bad at other times. That's why they had Fitzpatrick to come in there. The Jets may end up having that to do something like that also with Zach Wilson, where if he struggles early on, they may pull him early. Whereas another quarterback like Burrow was never going to get pulled last year in Cincinnati unless he got hurt.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. They got Corey Davis, the receiver out of Tennessee, who's a great receiver.
Like him, yeah.
goes up and gets it. He's a fighter. I don't know. I think they're going to be throwing a lot. And if you find yourself near the end of the rounds and you want to have some fun and there's all the normal studs are taken and you're like, oh, man, who am I going to dude? I don't know. I think there's way worse options you can do than Zach Wilson in New York. I think they're going to throw a lot, and I don't know, especially if it's a dynasty or keeper league, like just stash them away.
Yeah, you can do that. Absolutely, in a dynasty or keeper league. Yeah, you're going to take a guy like that. In my dynasty league, that I'm in, and I think I had the 4th overall pick in the rookie draft this year, and I took Trevor Lawrence, and just because he was the best option at the time after Najee Harris went, and Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts, those guys all went right away. But yeah, so I took Trevor Lawrence too. Yeah, if you're in a dynasty league like that, you've got to first round quarterbacks are the ones who end up leading teams and leading leagues in yards and getting Super Bowl wins. I mean, those are the ones who those are the ones who usually end up meeting and beating expectations are first round quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yep. Another quarterback that isn't get talked about a lot, Ryan Tannehill. Tito, is he a fantasy option?
Tannehill's stock improved when they got Julio Jones.
Yep.
And the fact they do have Derrick Henry there. And I know that Vrabel's not the best offensive mind there, but he lets his assistant coaches do some work there. Tannehill was always undervalued in Miami, I thought. And then gets a shot again in Tennessee. Tannehill early in his career was getting better every year before the Dolphins soured on him, and he ends up in Tennessee. But I do like Tannehill. He's my 11th ranked quarterback, right below Brady, right above Trevor Lawrence for me. So, I think that Tannehill's a good option too because he does have weapons there. DK Metcalf is a beast.
No,
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown, Julio Jones.
I get my initialized receivers messed up. AJ Brown though is, I've got him ranked certainly he's my 8th ranked receiver right now. When you have Julio Jones, if he's healthy, gives them another outstanding option there.
I mean, yeah, he threw 33 touchdowns last year. I'm sure he'll probably hit the over on that just because Julio is a little more dynamic than Corey. And, and so, I mean, you're looking at all of a sudden, I don't know, Tannehill could also be another option you get late and it's serviceable.
You'll be able to get
or at least a bye week fill in. I mean, geez, you can do way worse.
Tannehill, Matt Ryan, you can get late. I'm not big on Jalen Hurts this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know
I'm
there's
not
a lot
either.
of people have him projected as a top 10 quarterback because of the different things he can do. I'm not convinced he's a guy you're going to want to start in the NFL every week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced he'll hold that job the entire year. I haven't seen enough out of him. The Eagles are a bad team. And if you force the Eagles to throw and force Jalen Hurts to throw, if you make him throw and he's going to throw, it's going to be trouble there for Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts.
Yep. Tito, which quarterback is going to be on the most championship teams at the end of the season?
I think it's going to be Dak Prescott. I do. I think Prescott's going to end up being the guy that you're going to load up on running backs and receivers early on. And I think you're going to have the opportunity to get Prescott at a good value and you couple him with some top running backs and top receivers. I think that's the one that'll be on most championship teams.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. I think he's just with where he would probably be drafted, the players you could get before you get the Dak Prescott quarterback. If he has the trajectory he had last year, I think that's a no-brainer.
And I wonder if Deshaun Watson gets drafted in many leagues. Because there's different reports every day. He might get traded to Philadelphia. The Texans might play him. He says he's never going to play for the Texans again. He's a dynamic talent, but I don't know if he's going to be available. I'm not going to touch him. The only way I might take him if it's the last round and I want to take a flyer on a number 2 quarterback. I've only got one quarterback so far. I might throw a dart at him, but I don't think he's going to play this year.
I see it very much playing out like a Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. Don't play for a year, comes back, and it's just not the same player.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I'm not going to waste a draft pick. I would rather take a flyer on a running back, or I think there's better options for you to do with those last couple round picks. I have a different strategy though. I think, and we'll talk about this here in our defensive tight ends pod. I think you go for a defensive team around earlier and take a late round flyer on a 3rd string running back. But that's just my anyway. I'm not drafting Watson. I'd rather use that for a pick that can pay higher dividends later, especially if I already have a starting quarterback. I don't want to force myself to think, well, what about this matchup? What about this matchup? I don't want that. And I don't want Watson on my team.
One guy that I know is not getting drafted, I'm sure in most leagues, but I'm curious to see what he's going to do, because I think the guy's got talent. He just got stuck in a situation much like Mayfield did, where coaching regime changes, personnel changes. Sam Darnold going to Carolina. And I don't have great hopes. I mean, he's only like 25th. I've got him right below Mayfield in my rankings. That's not a jab. But Darnold, though, having McCaffrey there and having weapons there, he's familiar with Robbie Anderson and Matt Rule's there, who's obviously an offensive mind. I'm curious to see if he had a struggle in practice. He's struggled in practice a couple times lately, they've said. But I'm curious to see if having some kind of better voice in his ear and some better weapons there, and if he feels a little more confident, if Darnold can turn it around and maybe outplay where I've got him drafted or I've got him ranked.
Robbie Anderson had a pretty decent year last year for the Panthers. And
DJ Moore's there also.
Yep. And so he does have some weapons. I mean, dynamic running back. We'll see. I don't know. I don't trust Sam Darnold, but that's just me.
Would you rather have Darnold or Derek Carr as your number 2 quarterback?
Derek Carr.
You would think I'd rather have Darnold. I think Darnold's got I think that Darnold I'm curious what he's going to do. I think we know what Carr is. I don't think we know what Darnold is yet. I don't think he could flame out and his confidence could be shot, but if he's playing with confidence and he's got good people around him and good coaches this year, I think he could end up being much better than what we saw in New York.
I don't want my fantasy team starting with Derek Carr or Sam Darnold. I'm talking if I have an injury or there's a bye and I got to fill someone in, I'm probably going to go with Derek Carr because we know who Derek Carr is. I can say, okay, well, that's going to be 18 points. Sam Darnold can have a stinker game. Not that Derek Carr can't, but I just feel like the ceiling is the basement's way higher for Carr than it is for Darnold.
God, with Carr, it feels like every year there's talk about him being gone, And I can't imagine he's got a lot of confidence there just because the same way, you got Marcus Mariota right behind you.
You got a guy. You got a grinder like Derek Carr, man. No, I don't know. Yeah.
I think that Gruden believes in Mariota. And I think that if Carr has a couple bad games, he could be in trouble there. They flirted with Brady, obviously, before we went to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So I could see, I wonder if Darnold's going to have more job security this year than Carr is.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably pick Fitzpatrick over both of those mugs, though.
I would take Fitzpatrick over both of them. Yes, they've got some weapons there. Curtis Samuel is still not practicing. He was COVID, and then he had a groin injury, I think it was. But Curtis Samuel, someone who I think that Fitzpatrick will like using as well. He's that hybrid kind of player that that I think will be good for Fitzpatrick to have out there.
All right, that's the deal on the quarterbacks. We're going to jump in with tight ends and defense special teams coming up next. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Chase. I appreciate it.
Hey, Tito, thanks for having me on, man. Love talking quarterbacks. I think it's an important pick. I think you have to have one of those top-tier quarterbacks in order to do something, especially one that is playing for something to the end of the season. We even talk about quarterbacks who might be sitting. If you have like Patty Mahomes, right? Like, what if they have a 15-1 record? Is he going to play that last week? Probably not. And so you look at a player like Dak, who's going to be probably playing for something all season long. Matt Stafford probably as well. Baker Mayfield probably as well. Yes, I just threw his name in there. What you going to do about it?
Right.
I think that's the whole Peyton Manning conundrum, right? Yeah. Is what about him and the Colts? So it's an important pick, and you got to hit in a quarterback. You got to hit. And so I think we offered some pretty good insight, man.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yep. Thanks, Tito.
All right. Next up on August 14th, we're going to have the tight ends and defense and special teams talk. Get you going on that. We may even sprinkle in a tiny, tiny bit about kickers. Thanks for tuning in to the premier fantasy podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.